He noticed something strange. The more silent he became, the more people talked about him. The more focused he became, the more people watched him. The more he worked in silence, the louder his results became. That's the Sigma paradox. You say less, but your presence becomes stronger. Back in the day, he used to explain everything. His plans, his struggles, his dreams. He thought people needed to understand him. But what he learned in 2018 changed everything. Most people don't want to understand you. They want to measure you. They want to compare. They want to limit you. So he stopped explaining. He stopped posting every move. He stopped sharing every thought. He stopped proving every point. Not because he was scared, but because he became serious. Serious people move quietly. People started noticing. Not his words. Not his promises. Not his excuses. They noticed his results. They noticed his discipline. They noticed his distance. They noticed his focus. And that made people uncomfortable. Because when you work in silence, you force people to watch instead of talk. You force them to guess. You force them to wonder. You force them to respect. In 2018, real Sigma mindset was simple. No announcements. No validation. No explanations. Just work. Just focus. Just results. He realized something powerful. Weak people talk about plans. Strong people show outcomes. Weak people argue. Strong people disappear and improve. Silence became his advantage. While others were explaining, he was building. While others were posting, he was preparing. While others were talking, he was becoming. That's why people started watching him. Not because he was loud. Not because he was popular. But because he was different. Different energy. Different focus. Different level. If you're moving in silence, this message is for you. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to explain anything. You don't need permission to grow. Let your progress speak. Blackheart if this mindset matches you. This channel is for people who move quietly. Thumbs up press like if you're building in silence. Speech balloon comment Sigma if you don't explain yourself anymore. Bell subscribe if you're focused on long-term success. Heavy +sign follow for more classic Sigma mindset stories. Because real power doesn't make noise. It makes results. He stopped explaining himself. Not because he was wrong, but because he realized something most people never do. Not everyone deserves an explanation. Not everyone deserves access to your energy. And not everyone is capable of understanding your level. At first, he thought silence was weakness. He thought if he didn't defend himself, people would think he lost. But over time, he saw the truth. The people who demand explanations are usually the same people who never listened in the first place. So he stopped talking. And that's when things started changing. People noticed his silence. Some felt uncomfortable. Some felt curious. Some felt threatened. Because silence does something powerful. It makes people fill the gaps with their own thoughts. It forces them to wonder. It makes them question. And when you stop explaining yourself, you stop giving people control over your emotions. That's when you become dangerous. Not to others, but to your old, weak version. At first, people tested him. Why are you so quiet now? Why don't you explain yourself anymore? Why did you change? He didn't answer. Not because he was scared, but because he understood. People don't want explanations. They want control. They want you to doubt yourself. They want you to justify your growth. They want you to shrink back to who you used to be. He refused. He realized something painful. When you grow, some people don't clap for you. They feel left behind. They feel exposed. They feel small. So they try to pull you back to a version of you they are comfortable with. That's why they ask questions. That's why they demand explanations. That's why they pretend to be confused. Not because they don't understand, but because they don't like what they understand. Silence became his shield. Not everyone needed to know his plans. Not everyone needed to know his struggles. Not everyone needed to know his next move. Because the loudest people are usually the weakest. And the quiet ones? They are building something. He started moving differently. Less talking. More doing. Less explaining. More results. People who once doubted him started watching him quietly. The same people who laughed before now stayed silent. Because success explains everything without saying a single word. Here's a hard truth. The more you explain yourself, the more power you give away. Every explanation is emotional energy. Every defense is emotional currency. And most people are not worth that cost. Strong people don't argue. They move. Weak people debate. Strong people build. At some point, he realized something even deeper. Not everyone is meant to understand you. Some people are only meant to see you from a distance. Some people are only meant to hear about your success. Some people are only meant to wonder how you did it. They are not part of your journey. They are part of your audience. And there is a big difference. He used to feel guilty for changing, for growing, for becoming more selective. Now he understood. You're not becoming cold. You're becoming focused. You're not losing people. You're outgrowing them. You're not being rude. You're protecting your peace. That's not weakness. That's evolution. People confuse silence with fear. But real silence is confidence. It says, I don't need your approval. I don't need your validation. I don't need your permission to grow. That kind of silence makes average people uncomfortable. Because they are used to noise, drama, excuses, talk. Silence exposes who is really moving forward. He noticed something strange. The more silent he became, the more people talked about him. The more focused he became, the more people watched him. The more he worked in silence, the louder his results became. That's the Sigma. That's the Sigma paradox. You say less, but your presence becomes stronger. If you feel misunderstood, this is your sign. If people say you changed, this is your confirmation. If people question your silence, this is your power. Because silence is not emptiness. Silence is preparation. Silence is planning. Silence is building something. That doesn't need permission. Not everyone deserves front row access to your life. Some people only deserve updates. Some people only deserve distance. Some people only deserve silence. And that's okay. You don't owe everyone clarity. You don't owe everyone comfort. You don't owe everyone access. You owe yourself growth. He stopped explaining himself. Not because he was wrong, but because he was done wasting energy on people who were not going anywhere. He chose progress over approval, peace over arguments, results over validation. And that decision changed everything. If this mindset feels familiar, you're not alone. It means you're built differently. It means you see what others ignore. It means you're playing a longer game. Blackheart if you relate to this mindset. This channel is for people who build in silence. Thumbs up if this hit different, drop a like. Speech balloon comment, silent if you're working quietly. Bell subscribe if you're becoming someone people won't recognize. Because the strongest people don't announce their moves. They let the results do the talking.